Attachment is the root of all suffering. Buddha. From the moment we open our eyes to this world, we're taught that caring, endlessly, obsessively, is the path to love, success, and peace. We're told to chase people, outcomes, approval, and perfection, as if our worth depends on it. But what if the very act of caring too much is what's keeping everything out of reach? What if peace, power, clarity, and alignment only begin the moment you let go, not out of bitterness, but from awakening? Buddhism doesn't ask you to stop loving. It asks you to stop attaching, to stop confusing suffering with effort, to stop gripping so tightly that you choke the very things you're trying to protect. This is not about becoming cold. This is about becoming free. Because the moment you stop caring from fear and start releasing from wisdom, the world no longer resists you. It begins to rearrange itself around your calm. And that's when everything, quietly and almost magically, falls into place. Lesson 1. The obsession to fix everything is what breaks you. There is a deep and hidden exhaustion that comes from always trying to hold the world together with your bare hands. You feel it when you're lying awake at night, replaying conversations, wondering if you said the wrong thing, or if someone is silently pulling away. You feel it in your chest when someone disapproves of you or misunderstands your silence, and your mind rushes to patch up the damage, even when nothing has been said aloud. You carry the invisible weight of being the emotional anchor for everyone else, the one who solves, explains, adjusts, and overextends. You try to save relationships that are clearly fading, hold on to people who are already halfway out the door, and constantly adjust yourself to avoid offending or disappointing anyone around you. All of this is driven by one illusion, that if you just try hard enough, fix fast enough, and care deeply enough, you can prevent things from falling apart. But this obsession with fixing is not noble. It is not strength. It is fear in disguise. Fear of losing control. Fear of being alone. Fear of not being enough. And that fear turns your mind into a battlefield where peace cannot survive. Buddhism teaches us that suffering comes not from what is, but from our refusal to accept what is. The tighter you grip, the more it slips. Life is not something to be controlled. It is something to be witnessed, participated in, and let flow through you. The truth is, the more you try to fix everything, the more broken you feel. Because you are pouring your energy into things that were never yours to fix in the first place. Other people's emotions, their perceptions, their choices, and even their karma. You end up becoming a prisoner to outcomes you were never meant to own. But something powerful happens when you pause and let go. Not out of defeat, but out of wisdom. You realize that peace does not arrive when everything is perfect. It arrives when your need to fix everything disappears. When you stop fighting reality, when you stop micromanaging life, when you stop forcing your will onto everything, you stop bleeding energy. You reclaim your mind, your heart, and your spiritual power. And in that moment of surrender, life finally begins to move with you instead of against you. This is not giving up. It is rising above. It is the sacred art of knowing that you are not here to carry the weight of the world. You are here to walk lightly, breathe deeply, and trust that what falls away is not a loss. It is a clearing. And what remains is meant for you. Lesson 2, the more you chase, the more you bleed power. There is a quiet desperation in the act of chasing. It doesn't always look frantic on the outside. Sometimes it's masked as ambition, as love, as care. But inside, it feels like grasping at smoke. You reach for people's attention, crave their validation, pursue success, cling to timelines, and place your worth in external achievements that constantly move just out of reach. You say you're just trying to get what you deserve, but the truth is far more painful. You don't feel worthy unless you're chasing something to prove it. You've been conditioned to believe that peace must be earned through struggle, that nothing meaningful comes unless it's fought for, pursued, and won. But Buddhist wisdom gently confronts this illusion. It teaches that the very act of chasing something reinforces the belief that you are without it. When you chase love, you are affirming the absence of love within. When you chase success, you are unconsciously declaring that you are not enough as you are. And what begins as desire soon turns into suffering because you begin to believe that happiness is always on the other side of some distant outcome. But the more you chase, the more anxious, restless, and disconnected you become. You begin to betray your own spirit just to stay in the race, abandoning your values to keep someone interested, sacrificing your peace to be seen, grinding away your health to keep up with a life that never pauses to ask you what you truly want. And all the while, the deeper truth remains ignored. What is meant for you never needs to be hunted down with desperation. What is meant for you finds you when you become aligned with it, not when you exhaust yourself chasing it. Buddhism teaches us to stop trying to bend the world to our will and instead return to the present moment where everything we need already lives. When you stop chasing, you begin attracting, not through force, but through presence. The moment you stop seeking love from the outside, love flows from within. The moment you stop chasing success to fill a void, true purpose begins to whisper from your core. And the moment you stop running toward the next thing, life begins to bring the right things toward you. Not because you begged for them, but because you finally became still enough to receive them. This is the power of non-chasing. This is the wisdom of allowing. And it never fails. Lesson 3. Caring too much makes you easy to manipulate. There is a hidden cost to caring too deeply about what others think of you. On the surface, it looks like kindness, empathy, or being a good person. But beneath that surface often lives something much more dangerous. A quiet fear of disapproval, a hunger for acceptance, and a fragile sense of self that depends on being liked. When you care too much about how others see you, you give away your power in silence. You become easy to influence, easy to guilt, easy to control. A single comment, a slight shift in someone's tone, or the absence of praise can spiral you into anxiety, second-guessing your worth. You begin living your life like a mirror, constantly reflecting what others want to see, instead of being the light that shines on its own. And the most dangerous part? You may not even realize it's happening. You think you're being considerate, when in truth, you're being emotionally edited by people who may not even care about your well-being. You shrink your truth to avoid offending. You suppress your needs so others won't feel uncomfortable. You say yes when your entire being is screaming no, all because you're afraid of being judged, left out, or misunderstood. But Buddhism teaches a higher path, one that calls you back to your center. When you attach your peace to the behavior of others, you give them control over your inner world. And anyone who can control your emotions can also control your decisions, your energy, your boundaries, and ultimately, your life. Caring is not the problem. Over-identifying with people's approval is. The Buddha taught that liberation begins with recognizing the illusion of self that is built upon others' opinions. Your value does not rise or fall based on what they think, say, or assume. That is their mind, their lens, their karma, not yours. And the more you let go of the need to be perceived a certain way, the freer and more powerful you become. You begin to act from truth, not fear. You start speaking with conviction, not hesitation. You begin honoring your intuition, not suppressing it to keep the peace. And in doing so, you become untouchable, not because you've hardened, but because you've stopped outsourcing your self-worth. You become rooted, anchored, whole. When you stop caring in a way that costs your soul, you start living in a way that honors your spirit. People may misunderstand you, distance themselves, or criticize your growth. But none of it matters anymore. Because once your peace no longer depends on their perception, their influence over your life dissolves completely. That is the moment you begin to live free, not as a reflection, but as a force. Lesson 4. Control is the ego's favorite illusion. There is a quiet, relentless force that drives most of human suffering, and it's not pain or loss or failure. It is the illusion of control. The belief that if we think hard enough, plan perfectly enough, or worry long enough, we can protect ourselves from disappointment, rejection, or chaos. This illusion is subtle. It shows up as the need to control outcomes, conversations, relationships, people's feelings, and even the timing of life itself. You tell yourself you're just being responsible, just trying to keep things in order, but underneath that logic is a deep, trembling fear. Fear of being hurt, fear of losing something important, fear of being vulnerable in a world that has no guarantees. You try to anticipate every scenario, prepare for every possible failure, and predict people's behavior as if your mental grip can prevent what your soul is afraid to face. But here's the great paradox of control. The more you try to control, the more powerless you feel. Because life was never meant to be gripped. It was meant to be held with open hands. Buddhist wisdom speaks deeply to this. The Buddha taught that impermanence is the nature of all things, that nothing you cling to can stay the same, and nothing you resist can be held back forever. Everything is in motion. People leave. Emotions change. Success fades. Health fluctuates. Thoughts arise and dissolve. Trying to hold any of it still is like trying to stop the wind with your bare hands. Yet the ego, our false sense of identity, hates this truth. It wants to define itself by controlling what it touches. It wants to own relationships, predict the future, and manipulate life to match its narrow vision of how things should be. And when life resists, as it always does, we don't surrender. We fight harder. We tighten our grip. We overthink. We blame. We spiral into anxiety and call it being productive. We try to change people who don't want to be changed and force timelines that aren't ready to unfold. But this is the path of suffering, because what we're really doing isn't managing life. We're resisting it. We're standing in a river and screaming at the current to flow our way. And no matter how smart or strong we are, life doesn't bend to fear. It bends to flow. So what does it mean to truly let go? It means you stop bargaining with the universe. You stop measuring your worth by your ability to keep things from falling apart. You release the exhausting belief that it's all on you to hold everything together. You understand, deeply and finally, that you are not the architect of every detail, but you are the keeper of your response. Buddhism doesn't teach us to be passive. It teaches us to be free, to take action from presence, not panic, to make decisions without obsession, to love without needing to possess, to plan with clarity, not fear. Because when you release the grip of control, something strange and sacred begins to happen. Life starts to cooperate. People either drift away or move closer, both revealing what's real. Opportunities show up not because you chased them, but because you finally created the space for them to land. And most of all, your nervous system softens, your spirit expands. Your inner world, once cramped by anxiety and tight expectations, becomes vast and breathable. You realize that letting go isn't giving up, it's rising above. It's trusting the deeper rhythm of things, the one that was never chaotic, only misheard through the noise of your trying. And in this surrender, you find a power that control could never give you, peace that isn't shaken by outcomes, and strength that doesn't depend on certainty. This is the freedom the ego fears, but the soul was always longing for. Lesson 5. Stop caring. What the mind says, it lies. Your mind is one of the most powerful tools you have, but it is also the most deceptive when left unobserved. From the moment you were born, your mind began collecting impressions, words spoken to you in anger, gestures of rejection, childhood experiences you didn't understand, beliefs passed down by your parents, culture, religion, media, and society. Without your permission, it recorded these as laws, unchallenged and unfiltered. And now those recordings echo through your inner world as thoughts. I'm not good enough. I must prove my worth. I'll never be loved if I'm fully myself. Something bad is going to happen. These thoughts feel like truth, not because they are true, but because they have been repeated silently for years. And the more you believe them, the more real they feel. But here's the harsh truth. Your mind lies to you every single day, not maliciously, but instinctively, because its job is survival, not truth. It is always scanning for danger, always protecting your ego, always comparing, analyzing, judging, preparing. And while it may help you navigate basic threats, it also becomes your jailer, keeping you trapped in fear, doubt, overthinking, and emotional paralysis. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering is ignorance, and one of the deepest forms of ignorance is believing that you are your thoughts. When you fully identify with the voice in your head, you allow it to dictate your emotions, your actions, your self-worth, and your relationships. You give it the power to paralyze your decisions and poison your peace. One moment, it tells you you're amazing. The next, it tells you you're a failure. One moment, it praises your growth. The next, it shames you for not doing more. It pulls you into imaginary futures and unresolved pasts, dragging your energy away from the only thing that's real, this moment. And so, you become exhausted, not because life is hard, but because your mind never stops running. You lie awake at night, trying to solve problems that don't exist yet. You walk through your day judging yourself, second-guessing your words, reading between lines that were never written. You create mental movies of rejection and disaster. And all the while, your real life is unfolding right in front of you, and you're missing it. This is how the mind steals your peace, not by force, but by distraction. It convinces you that safety lies in controlling everything, that happiness is just one fix away, that you'll be okay once you get approval, love, money, closure, or certainty. But Buddhism reminds us that none of those things can satisfy a mind addicted to fear. You can feed it constantly, and it will still ask for more. It's not peace your mind is looking for. It's comfort, predictability, and control. And those are illusions. So what do? You wake up. You begin to step back and observe the mind, not from within its storm, but from the stillness beyond it. You start recognizing that thoughts are just thoughts, not commands, not truths, not identities. Just passing weather across the sky of your awareness. You realize that you don't need to argue with them. You don't need to fix or suppress them. You simply let them pass, like watching traffic go by without chasing every car. This is mindfulness. This is presence. And this is freedom. The moment you stop caring about what the mind says and start caring about how you relate to it, everything changes. You stop getting triggered by every insecurity, insult, or shadow. You stop reacting to the mental voice that says, "They're judging you. You're falling behind. You're not safe." You begin to pause, to breathe, to see clearly. And in that space between thought and reaction, you return to your power. You choose how to respond. You don't obey. You don't resist. You just witness. And the witnessing itself is healing. Because when awareness rises, the illusion falls. Over time, the mind begins to soften. It starts to lose its grip over you. The voices still come, but they no longer hook you. You smile when the old patterns whisper, "You're not enough," because now you know that voice is just the echo of someone else's pain, passed down and repeated, but never yours to keep. You begin to live from a place far beneath the noise, from the center of your being, where stillness, clarity, and truth reside. And in that stillness, you hear something the mind can never give you: peace without needing answers, love without needing proof, worth without needing validation. This is the liberation Buddhism points toward, not the absence of thoughts, but the realization that you are infinitely more than them. You are the awareness in which they rise and fall, the sky that holds the storm but is never harmed by it. You are not the fear. You are not the doubt. You are not the mind. You are the one who sees. And when you finally understand that, you reclaim your life, not from the world, but from yourself. From the false self that the mind tried to convince you was real. And in that sacred moment of awakening, you stop living at the mercy of your mind. You stop needing to fix your thoughts. You stop trying to silence them. You simply stop believing them. And from that detachment, calm, clear, rooted, you begin to live a new kind of life. A life where the mind no longer rules, but serves. A life where the noise fades and only truth remains. A life where you are no longer the prisoner, but the master. Lesson 6. Let go of the need to always be understood. There is a silent suffering many people carry, the ache of being misunderstood. It's the sharp sting when someone twists your words, the hollow feeling when your intentions are questioned, the emotional drain of trying to explain your heart to people who are determined not to hear it. And so, you try harder. You over-explain. You replay conversations in your mind, wondering where you went wrong, what you should have said, or how you could have been clearer. You bend yourself into a version you think they'll understand, diluting your truth so it's easier for others to digest. But the more you try to be understood by everyone, the more you abandon yourself. What begins as a desire for connection quietly becomes self-erasure. This is one of the deepest spiritual traps, confusing being understood with being safe, being seen with being worthy. But Buddhist wisdom shows us a different path, a quieter, freer, more powerful way of living. It teaches us that the need to be understood is often just the ego's final cry for control. Because to be misunderstood feels threatening to the ego. It feels like a loss of identity, of stability, of certainty. It feels like rejection. And so we resist it. We fight it. We explain ourselves to exhaustion, not realizing that every time we do, we're placing our peace in the hands of people who may never be capable of holding it. The Buddha himself, in his life of immense wisdom and compassion, was misunderstood. He was criticized, slandered, and doubted. But he remained still, not because he didn't care, but because he had transcended the need for external validation. His peace did not rise and fall based on public opinion. It rose from within. When you let go of the need to always be understood, something begins to shift inside you. At first, it may feel like loss, like you're giving up on connection, like you're closing a door. But in truth, it's a return to self-respect, a return to inner grounding, a return to living from the inside out, not the outside in. You begin to realize that your truth doesn't become less true just because someone else can't see it, that your silence is not weakness, it's wisdom, that sometimes the most powerful statement is to say nothing at all, not because you're defeated, but because your peace is too sacred to offer into confusion. The need to be understood is a chain. It keeps you tied to constant approval, fragile identity, and emotional reactivity. Every time someone misjudges you, you feel pulled to respond, to defend, to prove your value. But not everyone is meant to understand your path. Not everyone is ready to receive your depth. Some people cannot hear your truth because it threatens the lies they still cling to. Others will misunderstand you because they can only meet you from the limits of their own wounds. And that's okay. You don't need to carry the burden of correcting their lens. You are not responsible for how others interpret your silence, your healing, or your growth. There is extraordinary power in choosing stillness over defense, in walking away without resentment, in allowing others to form their own stories about you while you live in peace regardless. Buddhism reminds us that clinging to image is just another form of attachment, and attachment leads to suffering. When you stop needing to be understood, you begin to live more authentically. You speak when it matters and remain silent when it doesn't. You stop trying to perform your worth and instead embody it. You realize that being at peace with yourself is infinitely more valuable than convincing the world of who you are. And in that shift, something rare happens. You begin to attract people who feel you, not just hear your words. People who recognize your spirit, who don't need explanations to sense your energy. You find connections built on resonance, not performance. And you stop being drained by those who constantly need convincing, decoding, or managing. You are no longer controlled by their confusion because your clarity has become enough for you. Letting go of the need to be understood is not coldness. It is emotional maturity. It is not giving up. It is evolving beyond the limitations of validation. It is trusting that your path, your choices, and your transformation do not need to be approved to be true. You do not need to be seen by the world to walk in light. The sun shines whether anyone is looking or not. So the next time someone misunderstands your silence, your distance, your decisions, let them. You no longer owe your energy to those who are not aligned with your peace. You owe it to yourself. Let your life speak. Let your presence reveal what words cannot, and trust that those who are meant to understand you will. And those who don't were never your path to begin with. So the next time someone misunderstands your silence, your distance, your decisions, let them. Let them form their opinions, create their stories, draw their conclusions. You no longer owe your soul's softness to those who misread it as weakness. You no longer owe your truth to conversations that feel like courtrooms. Not every space deserves your voice. Not every disagreement deserves your peace. Some people need to misunderstand you in order to continue their version of the world. Let them. Do not let their confusion become your burden. Let your stillness unsettle their chaos. Let your calm expose their noise. This is not pride. This is sovereignty. This is the spiritual maturity of someone who has learned that defending yourself to the wrong people is a slow and silent betrayal of self. And one day, in your stillness, you'll realize the liberation that comes with no longer being reactive. You'll notice how quiet your mind becomes when you stop rehearsing explanations in your head. You'll feel how light your spirit grows when you walk through life no longer trying to be decoded, liked, or praised. You will have made peace with not being for everyone, and in doing so, you'll become deeply aligned with your true path. Because only when you are no longer distracted by being understood can you fully begin to understand yourself. Lesson 7. When you let go, you become untouchable. There comes a moment in every journey, not with noise, but in a silent collapse, where something inside of you breaks. Not in a way that weakens you, but in a way that frees you. You no longer chase what's fading. You no longer argue for your worth. You no longer beg for clarity from people committed to misunderstanding you. You simply let go, not because you're defeated, but because you've finally outgrown the illusion that holding on would save you. That moment, when you release with no plan, no resistance, and no guarantee, is not the end of your strength. It is the beginning of your transformation. Letting go is not passive. It is not apathy. It is not giving up. It is the highest act of inner mastery, the realization that you were never meant to carry what was breaking you. In Buddhist wisdom, to let go is to return to the natural flow of life, to surrender not in weakness, but in alignment. The moment you let go, you are no longer ruled by desire, by fear, by ego, or by the constant obsession with how life should be. You begin to live with a quiet kind of power, a power not based on control, but on inner stillness. Because here's the truth. The things you were gripping so tightly, relationships, outcomes, recognition, control, were never yours to possess. They were experiences, passing moments, teachers. But your mind, trained by fear, told you that safety lies in attachment, that love must be earned, that success must be chased, that your value depends on external stability. And so, you clung. You negotiated your peace to keep what was never stable. You exhausted your energy trying to hold on to people and paths that were already moving away. You made a home out of struggle because the silence of letting go felt too unfamiliar. But struggle is not your home. And the truth is, everything you truly need will never require you to sacrifice your soul to keep it. That relationship that crumbles the moment you stop proving yourself is not love, it's attachment. That dream that demands you burn out your body and betray your values is not purpose, it's ego. That identity that breaks apart when others reject you is not who you are. It's the mask you've worn to survive. Letting go is the act of releasing all of that and trusting deeply that what remains is enough. That your worth is not in how much you hold on to, but in how gracefully you release what is no longer aligned with your becoming. And what happens next is the miracle most people never reach. You rise, quietly, clearly, powerfully. Not because you fought harder, but because you stopped resisting life's unfolding. You stopped bleeding energy into everything that was draining you. You became whole, not by adding more, but by subtracting what was never meant to stay. You become untouchable, not because nothing affects you, but because nothing owns you. Insults lose their weight. Rejections lose their sting. Losses no longer shake the ground beneath your feet. You are no longer a puppet, pulled by every emotion, every opinion, every outcome. You've returned to your center, to your inner sanctuary, to the calm beneath all conditions. And in that place, you become magnetic, not to everything, but to everything that is truly meant for you. In Buddhist terms, you've transcended clinging. And in doing so, you've unlocked the only real freedom this world can offer. The freedom to walk through life without fear of loss. The freedom to love without needing to possess. To succeed without chasing. To exist without performing. To speak without apologizing for your truth. To be still while the world spins around you. That is the freedom of a soul that has let go. And here's what makes it so powerful. Once you've truly let go, the world can no longer manipulate you. It can tempt you, distract you, even try to scare you, but it cannot move you from your place of peace. You've stopped reacting. You've stopped overreaching. You've stopped confusing noise for value and attention for love. You've remembered that you are whole, even when things fall apart. That your worth is constant, even when people leave. That your path is sacred, even when others can't see it. Letting go doesn't mean you lose. It means you create space. Space for clarity. Space for alignment. Space for the right people to find you when you're no longer hiding behind masks. Space for opportunities that don't require you to beg or bend. Space for your true self to rise without interruption. And most of all, letting go creates space for peace. The kind of peace that doesn't rely on circumstances. The kind of peace that can walk through storms, heartbreak, and endings and still say, I am okay. I am whole. I am still me. That is the highest form of strength. And once you touch it, once you truly live in that space, no one can take it from you. Conclusion: you've spent your life believing that caring more meant being stronger, that chasing harder meant you were more worthy, that explaining yourself made you more understandable. But what if the deepest strength is not found in effort, but in release? What if everything you've been trying to fix, prove, or protect was never broken, only misunderstood by a mind trained to grip instead of let go? Buddhist wisdom doesn't ask you to stop feeling. It asks you to stop clinging. It doesn't tell you to become cold. It invites you to become clear. And in that clarity, something incredible happens. You stop being controlled by the world and start coexisting with it. You stop reacting to every storm and become the stillness it can't shake. You stop chasing peace and realize it was always within you, hidden beneath the noise of fear, attachment, and ego. When you stop caring the way the world taught you to care, you don't become less human. You become more awake. You begin to attract, not from desperation, but from alignment. You begin to heal, not through force, but through surrender. And you begin to live, not as a puppet of pressure, but as a presence rooted in truth. So let go, not as a last resort, but as your highest power. Let go of what was never yours to carry. Let go of the need to be understood, approved, or controlled. Let go of the stories your mind keeps telling you. And in that letting go, you will find what so many spend their lives chasing: peace that doesn't move, clarity that doesn't fade, and a power so still, it cannot be shaken by anything. This is not the end. This is your beginning. Walk lightly, let go, and trust. Life will fall into place.